The massive space station hung in the darkness between three glowing suns, its crystal towers stretching out like frozen lightning. Inside the biggest hall of the Galactic Beast Academy, hundreds of alien students sat in floating chairs, their eyes fixed on the stage where Instructor Valdris stood tall on his four legs. Valdris looked like a giant lizard wearing fancy robes, his silver scales catching the light as he moved. 200 years of teaching had made him confident about one thing: he could spot trouble from across the galaxy. Today that trouble came in a small package. "Welcome, new students," his deep voice echoed through the hall. "You are here to learn the most dangerous skill in the known universe, taming apex beasts. Creatures that can tear apart starships with their bare claws." In the back row, a young human woman named Destiny sat quietly. Her dark skin seemed to glow under the alien lights, and her hair was pulled back in simple braids. She looked tiny compared to the massive bug-like Thackeray students beside her, or the floating gas clouds that called themselves ethereals. The other students whispered and pointed at her. Everyone knew about humans, the weak species from a backwater planet called Earth. No claws, no armor, no special powers. Most aliens wondered why humans were even allowed in space. Valdris continued his speech about the Academy's history, about the legendary beasts locked away in the lower levels, about students who had died trying to bond with creatures from nightmare worlds. The alien students listened with respect and fear. That's when Destiny raised her hand. "Excuse me, sir," she said in a voice that carried clearly through the hall. "I think there's been some mix-up with my schedule." Valdris turned his reptilian head toward her. "What kind of mix-up, miss?" "Destiny Washington," she said, standing up. Even standing, she barely reached the shoulders of the sitting aliens around her. "The thing is, I've already tamed all the apex beasts you keep here. So I'm not sure what classes I'm supposed to attend." The hall went completely silent. You could hear the hum of the space station's engines through the walls. Then, slowly, the silence broke. First, one Thackeray student started clicking his mandibles, their version of laughter. Then another joined in. The ethereals began shimmering with amusement, changing colors like disco balls. Soon the entire hall was filled with alien laughter in dozens of different forms. "All of them?" Valdris asked, his voice carrying a mix of disbelief and annoyance. "Child, do you understand what we do here? We train beings to master creatures that have destroyed entire fleets. We house beasts from the darkest corners of space." Destiny shrugged, a gesture that looked strange among all the alien body language around her. "I know what I said, sir." The laughter grew louder. A student with tentacles instead of arms was slapping the floor with them. Another student, who looked like a walking crystal, was making sounds like breaking glass, apparently their way of showing amusement. "The Shadow Lynx," Valdris said, naming one of the Academy's most dangerous creatures. Interdimensional predators that exist partially in dark matter. They've killed 3 masters in the past decade. "Sounds like big cats from back home," Destiny replied calmly. "Probably just need some understanding." More laughter erupted. Even some of the faculty members in the observation booths were making amused sounds in their native languages. Valdris felt his patience running thin. In 2 centuries of teaching, he had never encountered such arrogance from a species so clearly unsuited for beast mastery. Humans had no psychic abilities, no natural weapons, no enhanced senses. They were famous throughout the galaxy for being remarkably ordinary. "The Void Stalkers," he continued, his voice getting harder. "Creatures that hunt in the space between dimensions. They can phase through solid matter and their touch can freeze molecules solid." "Still just animals, sir," Destiny said. "They probably get scared in new places like any creature would." The hall exploded with laughter again. Students were falling out of their floating chairs, some making sounds Valdris had never heard before. Even his teaching assistant, a serious chronic warrior, was shaking with suppressed amusement. "Very well, Miss Washington," Valdris said, his voice dripping with cold authority. "Report to Training Bay 7 tomorrow morning. You'll start with the coral nibblers in the beginner section. Perhaps after they've given you a proper introduction to beast mastery, you'll understand why your claims are impossible." "Thank you, sir," Destiny said, sitting back down as if nothing had happened. As the laughter finally died down and Valdris continued his orientation speech, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this human. Her confidence seemed genuine, not the bravado of an inexperienced student trying to impress classmates. But that was impossible. Humans were barely capable of surviving their own planet, let alone mastering creatures from across the galaxy. Tomorrow would prove that point clearly enough. The morning alarm echoed through the Academy's metal corridors at exactly 0700 Galactic Standard Time. Valdris was already in his office, reviewing student files and sipping his morning nutrient paste when his communication device started flashing urgent red. "Sir," came the voice of Training Supervisor Crix, a battle-scarred veteran who had lost 2 arms to a plasma bear decades ago. "You need to see what happened in Bay 7. "Let me guess," Valdris said, setting down his cup. "The human girl got scared and ran? Or maybe the coral nibblers gave her a good bite to teach her some respect." "Sir, she finished the entire beginner course in 3 hours." Valdris blinked his large yellow eyes. "Impossible. The beginner course takes most students 2 weeks minimum." "That's not all, sir. All 12 coral nibblers are following her around like trained pets. They won't respond to any other handler now." Within minutes, Valdris was striding through the academy halls toward the training bays. Students pressed against the walls to let him pass. When Valdris moved fast, it usually meant trouble. His 4 legs carried him quickly down the gleaming corridors past windows showing the star field outside. He found Destiny in Intermediate Bay 3, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Around her, 6 thunder wasps hovered peacefully in formation. These weren't the harmless coral nibblers from the beginner level. Thunder wasps were the size of small shuttlecraft, with stingers that could punch through battle armor and wings that created sonic booms when they flew. Last month they had put 3 Zentorian students in the medical bay. "Miss Washington," Valdris said carefully, not wanting to startle the creatures. "What exactly are you doing?" Destiny looked up with a smile. "Just getting to know them. They're actually pretty sweet once you understand what they're trying to tell you." One of the wasps, a massive creature with blue and silver stripes, landed gently beside her. Its stinger, which could have pierced through a starship hull, retracted completely as it settled down like a giant, deadly puppy. "They're not aggressive," Destiny continued, reaching up to pat the wasp's head between its compound eyes. "They're just protective. Think about it, they're in a strange place, surrounded by aliens they've never seen before. Of course they're going to be defensive." Supervisor Crix approached cautiously. He was a chronic, built like a walking tank with natural armor plating, but even he looked nervous around the thunder wasps. "Ma'am, those creatures nearly killed a student last week." "Because nobody was listening to them," Destiny said simply. "Watch their wing patterns when someone approaches wrong." She stood up slowly, and the wasps rose with her, maintaining perfect formation. "See how their wings are buzzing in short bursts? That's not anger, that's anxiety. They're trying to say, 'Please don't hurt us,' but everyone interprets it as a threat." Valdris accessed his neural interface, pulling up decades of research on thunder wasp behavior. Every single academic paper described their wing patterns as aggressive displays, warning signals before attacks. "How do you know this?" he asked. "Bees back home do the same thing," Destiny said, walking slowly toward the exit with her escort of giant wasps. Different scale, same basic communication. As they moved through the halls, other students stopped and stared. The sight of a tiny human girl casually strolling with 6 massive thunder wasps was unlike anything the Academy had seen in its 1,000-year history. "Sir," Crix said quietly to Valdris, "she's requesting access to the advanced-level creatures." "Absolutely not," Valdris replied immediately. The thunder wasps were luck. The advanced level houses creatures that have killed certified masters. "With respect, sir," came a new voice. They turned to see Zara, a human student from the Theoretical Studies program. "You don't know Destiny like I do. We grew up on the same street back in Detroit. She's been doing this since we were kids." "Doing what exactly?" Valdris asked. "Making friends with things that should eat her," Zara said with a grin. "Stray dogs, feral cats, even a wounded bear once. Animal control stopped taking calls from our neighborhood because every dangerous animal they found was already following Destiny around asking for belly rubs." Valdris watched as Destiny knelt down beside one of the thunder wasps, speaking to it in soft tones that weren't quite words. The massive creature made a sound like distant thunder but gentler somehow. "This changes nothing," Valdris said firmly. "Luck with Earth animals doesn't translate to creatures from across the galaxy. The advanced level stays locked." But even as he said it, Valdris felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of teaching: uncertainty. Every instinct told him that humans were too weak, too simple for this work. Yet he was watching impossible things happen right in front of his eyes. The thunder wasps were supposed to be barely contained killing machines. Instead, they looked like they were having the time of their lives. Something was very, very wrong with everything he thought he knew about beast mastery. By the end of the week, the Galactic Beast Academy had turned into something nobody recognized. Word about Destiny had spread through every level of the massive space station, and suddenly everyone wanted to see what the human girl would do next. The viewing galleries that normally sat empty were now packed with students from every species imaginable. Crystalline beings pressed against the windows alongside tentacled creatures and floating gas clouds. Even the faculty had started showing up to trials they'd seen thousands of times before. Destiny didn't seem bothered by all the attention. She just kept moving through the academy's levels like she was taking a casual walk through a zoo back home. On Tuesday morning, she walked into the advanced bay where the flame serpents lived. These weren't just big snakes, they were living plasma conduits from the core of a dying star. Their breath could melt through battleship armor, and their scales glowed white-hot even when they were calm. The safety briefing alone usually took 3 hours. Destiny sat down on the metal floor and started humming. "Is she insane?" whispered Velox, a 4-armed student from the Centauri system. "Those things killed Master Thorak last year." But within minutes, the impossible was happening again. The largest flame serpent, a creature the size of a subway train, slithered over and coiled around Destiny like a massive, glowing scarf. Its scales had cooled from white-hot to a gentle orange glow. "They're not angry," Destiny said to the watching crowd through the observation window. "They're homesick. Look at how they keep their heads pointed toward the galactic core. They want to go home." She stood up carefully, the serpent adjusting its coils to support her movement. "Back on Earth, my grandma had a python named Princess. Same body language, same needs, just wants to feel safe and warm." In the faculty observation booth, Dr. Calera was frantically taking notes. "This contradicts everything we know about plasma-based life forms," she muttered to her assistant. "Sir," the assistant replied, "maybe what we know is wrong." Wednesday brought even more impossible sights. Destiny entered the Quantum Wolf Den, a place where reality itself bent and twisted. These creatures existed in multiple dimensions at once, appearing and disappearing without warning. Standard protocol required psychic dampeners and reality anchors just for observers to stay sane. Destiny just walked in empty-handed and sat down. The wolves materialized around her one by one, their forms shifting through dimensions like living mirages. Instead of the expected attack, they began what looked like play behavior, phasing in and out of visibility while making sounds like cosmic wind chimes. "Puppies," Destiny said simply when asked to explain. "Really weird puppies, but still puppies. They want to play, but nobody here knows how to play their games." She threw a ball of concentrated dark energy that one of the wolves had created. The creature chased after it through 3 dimensions before bringing it back, tail wagging across multiple planes of existence. By Thursday, the Academy's communication systems were overloaded with calls from across the galaxy. Word had leaked out about the human who was rewriting the rules of beast mastery, and everyone wanted to see for themselves. The viewing galleries were now so crowded that they had to implement a lottery system. Students were trading their meal rations for a chance to watch Destiny work. That's when Valdris decided to escalate things. "The phase spiders," he announced during the morning assembly. "If she's so confident, let her try the phase spiders." A collective gasp went through the hall. Phase spiders were legends even among apex beasts. They existed partially outside normal spacetime, could walk through solid matter, and their bite could phase victims out of reality permanently. The Academy only kept 3 of them, and they were considered too dangerous for regular training. 2 masters had attempted to bond with phase spiders in the Academy's history. Both had simply vanished, leaving behind only empty training suits. Destiny just nodded. "Okay." The advanced containment bay had never seen so many observers. Every viewing window was packed, and the audio channels were broadcasting to fascinated audiences across dozens of star systems. The phase spiders materialized slowly, 3 creatures that looked like they were made of living shadow and starlight. They moved in ways that hurt to watch directly, their forms constantly shifting between dimensions. Destiny walked to the center of the bay and sat down cross-legged. Then she did something that made every observer lean forward in confusion. She started making clicking sounds with her tongue, mixed with soft whistles and what sounded like purring. "What is she doing?" demanded Valdris from his booth. "I think," said Dr. Calera slowly, "she's trying to speak spider." And incredibly, it seemed to be working. The phase spiders stopped their dimensional flickering and approached her with movements that looked almost curious. Their forms stabilized into something resembling normal spiders, just ones the size of hovercars with legs that sparkled like captured starlight. Within an hour, Destiny was sitting peacefully while the phase spiders wove a web around her, not to trap her, but seemingly to include her in their dimensional space. "Impossible," Valdris whispered, but the word was starting to lose all meaning. In the student section, Zara was grinning widely. "Just wait," she told the amazed aliens around her. This is just getting started. Valdris paced in his private office, his 4 legs wearing a groove in the metal floor. Outside his window, the stars seemed to mock him with their steady light. Everything he had learned in 2 centuries of teaching was crumbling around him like a house made of sand. The reports kept coming in from every department. Destiny Washington had bonded with creatures that had killed masters with decades of experience. She had turned the Academy's most dangerous beasts into what looked like oversized pets. And she did it all with techniques that appeared in no textbook, followed no established protocol, and made absolutely no scientific sense. "Sir," came a voice from his door intercom. It was his assistant, Yex, a nervous Carillion who usually handled routine paperwork. "The Galactic Council is requesting a full report on the humans' activities. They're concerned." Valdris stopped pacing. When the Galactic Council got concerned, careers ended and funding disappeared. The Academy's reputation was built on containing the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, not on letting a human girl turn them into a traveling circus. He made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Yex," he said quietly, "prepare the grand arena." "Sir? For what occasion?" "We're going to settle this once and for all. Contact the Nexus Dragon handlers. Tell them to begin the awakening sequence." There was silence from the intercom. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Sir, the Nexus Dragon hasn't been awakened in over 50 years. The last 3 masters who attempted bonding are dead." "I know." Valdris looked out at the stars again. "But if this human is really what she appears to be, then we need to know. And if she's just lucky, then this will end quickly." Word spread through the Academy faster than light-speed communications. The Nexus Dragon. The creature that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The beast that had been deemed too dangerous for any training program and was kept in permanent stasis in the deepest vault of the Academy. Students who had been fighting for viewing spots in regular trials were now begging, bribing, and trading everything they owned just to witness what everyone assumed would be either the greatest triumph in beast mastery history or the most spectacular death. The Grand Arena was the Academy's largest space, designed to contain creatures that could threaten entire star systems. Its walls were lined with reality stabilizers, dimensional anchors, and enough shielding to protect against quantum explosions. As the seats filled with observers from across the galaxy, Destiny sat calmly in the preparation chamber. Zara had brought her a cup of Earth coffee from their personal supplies, and she sipped it like she was getting ready for a normal day. "You know you don't have to do this, right?" Zara said, her voice tight with worry. "Nobody would blame you for walking away. This thing has killed people who train their entire lives for moments like this." Destiny set down her coffee and smiled. "Remember when we were kids and that old dog wandered into Mrs. Johnson's yard? Everyone said it was rabid, dangerous, ready to attack anyone who got close. Yeah, and you walked right up to it and found out it just had a hurt paw. Same thing here," Destiny said simply. "Just bigger and with more dimensions." In the arena center, the containment field hummed with power that could be felt in the bones of every observer. Reality itself seemed to bend around the field as technicians prepared the awakening sequence. Valdris took his place in the control booth, his claws hovering over the emergency containment switches. Around the arena, the best medical teams in the galaxy waited on standby. "Initiating awakening sequence," announced the head technician, a Christek whose entire body was made of living mineral. "All safety protocols are active. Dimensional stabilizers at maximum power." The field flickered, and something impossible began to manifest in the arena center. The Nexus Dragon wasn't just big, it was vast in ways that made geometry cry. Its form shifted constantly through dimensions that most species couldn't even perceive. Looking at it directly caused headaches and nausea as minds tried to process something that existed in more spaces than should be possible. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like watching a star being born and dying simultaneously. The creature's attention swept across the arena, and several observers fainted from just being noticed by something that existed across 17 dimensions. Its roar wasn't heard so much as felt in the fabric of reality itself. Then Destiny walked into the arena. She looked impossibly small against the cosmic horror floating above her. The Nexus Dragon's attention fixed on her, and the temperature in the arena dropped by 20 degrees as reality warped around its focus. Destiny sat down cross-legged in the center of the arena and did something that made every observer hold their breath. She started talking to it. Not in Galactic Standard, not in any language the universal translators recognized, but in what sounded like a mixture of every Earth language that had ever existed, punctuated by sounds that seemed to come from the spaces between words. And somehow, impossibly, the Nexus Dragon began to listen. The Grand Arena had never been so quiet. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy held their breath as they watched something that should have been impossible. The Nexus Dragon, a creature of pure cosmic fury that existed in 17 dimensions, was slowly settling down around Destiny like the universe's most dangerous house cat. Its massive form, which had been shifting through reality so fast it hurt to look at, began to stabilize. The roar that had shaken the very foundations of space-time turned into something that sounded almost like purring, if purring could echo across multiple dimensions. Destiny continued speaking in her strange mixture of sounds, her voice somehow carrying clearly through the arena despite being barely above a whisper. She reached up with one small hand and touched what might have been the dragon's snout, though it was hard to tell where one dimension ended and another began. The dragon made a sound like cosmic wind chimes mixed with distant thunder, then carefully wrapped its impossible form around her in a protective coil. "By the void," whispered Dr. Calera from the observation booth. It's protecting her." Valdris stared at the scene below, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. In 2 centuries of teaching, he had seen students bond with dangerous creatures before. But this wasn't bonding, this was something entirely different. The dragon wasn't just tamed, it was content, peaceful, almost happy. Destiny stood up slowly, the dragon adjusting its coils to help her rise. As she walked toward the arena center, her voice carried clearly through the audio system. "You want to know why this works?" she said, looking up at the thousands of observers surrounding her. "It's not because humans are stronger or smarter than everyone else. We're actually pretty weak compared to most of you." She gestured to the dragon, which had now settled completely and was watching the crowd with what could only be described as curiosity rather than hostility. "We're special because Earth spent millions of years trying to kill us, and we survived by making friends with everything that didn't eat us first." In the student section, Zara nodded vigorously. "Tell them about the wolves," she called out. Destiny smiled. "Thousands of years ago, our ancestors were just scared primates hiding in caves. But when the Ice Age came, we didn't just survive, we convinced wolves to help us hunt. Wolves, pack predators with teeth designed for killing. We turned them into dogs, into family members who would die protecting human children." She began walking around the arena, the dragon following her like a massive, interdimensional puppy. "We did the same thing with wild cats, with horses, with birds of prey. We even learned to work with creatures that could easily kill us: bears, elephants, whales." A Thackeray student in the upper gallery clicked his mandibles nervously. "But how did you know what to say to the dragon?" "Every animal speaks the same basic language," Destiny explained. "Body posture, vocal tones, respect for personal space. A scared cat in Detroit acts the same way as a scared tiger in India. The scale doesn't matter, the emotions are universal." She stopped walking and looked directly up at Valdris in the control booth. "You all try to dominate these creatures because you think that's what mastery means. But real mastery isn't about control. It's about communication." Valdris felt something crack inside his chest. All those years of teaching students to overpower, to subdue, to force submission from creatures that might just have been scared and homesick. "The flame serpents weren't angry," Destiny continued. "They were homesick. The phase spiders weren't hunting. They were playing games nobody else knew how to play. The thunder wasps were just protecting their territory because they thought they were under attack." She reached up to pat the dragon's snout again, and the massive creature made that cosmic purring sound. "And this guy? He's been alone in that containment field for 50 years. He wasn't aggressive, he was lonely." The arena erupted in confused chatter as beings tried to process what they were hearing. Species that had been studying beast mastery for millennia were being told their fundamental approaches were wrong. "But we have superior technology," protested a Zentorian professor. "Advanced psychic abilities, enhanced physical capabilities." "And that's exactly the problem," Destiny said. "You rely on your advantages so much that you forget animals don't care about technology or psychic powers. They care about whether you're going to hurt them or help them." She walked toward the arena exit, her impossible collection of tamed creatures following behind her. The Nexus dragon moved carefully, its massive form somehow managing not to disturb the smaller beasts that had joined the procession over the past week. "Every creature in this academy just wants the same things Earth animals want," she said as she reached the exit. "Food, safety, companionship, and respect. The only difference is the scale." As the arena doors opened and Destiny led her menagerie of former apex predators into the corridor beyond, Valdris realized something that would change his entire understanding of the universe. Humans hadn't just mastered beast taming. They had evolved it as a survival trait over millions of years on a world where everything was either trying to eat them or could be convinced not to. They were the apex predators of making friends with things that should kill them. And they had just taught the entire galaxy what real strength looked like.